Hei og velkommen til en ny episode av SMB Norge Podcasten. Og det her blir bare en kort intro på norsk først, fordi jeg sitter her da med en internasjonal gjest, for å si det sånn. Så heretter skal det foregå på engelsk, og ikke min videregående tysk. Jeg kunne kanskje ha pratet tysk, men det hadde blitt litt for enkelt for gjesten, vil jeg tro. Wolfgang Sölch. Almost correct?
Almost correct.
Yes, so I'll say Wolfgang after this.
Wolfgang.
Welcome to the SMB Norge podcast, Wolfgang. You are here from Pulsora.
Yes.
But let's first talk about Arendalsuka. You said it was the first time you were here. And how has this experience been? It's maybe a crowded, maybe it's crazy week. I don't know. What is your impressions?
You know, I really like it because it's so different. Because if you go on a normal fair, you have all these halls and everybody made up his booth. So I think it's really very special to meet people on ships and special locations. It's a very interesting experience. And I really like it, you know, like so far it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And I was invited yesterday for like a barbecue.
Yeah.
What was nice, and you can overlook the sea. So it's totally different experience to what you normally get on a fair globally. So I think it's a nice setup, nice idea. It's the only reason what I wonder why it's in Arendal, but probably you can tell me or somebody else can tell me why it's not in Oslo, for example, could be the same. But it's interesting to see.
Yes, there was a competition. I would say, I'm just guessing, so don't arrest me, dear listeners, but around 15-ish years ago, there was a competition. It was between Arendal, Drammen. Drammen is about 45 minutes outside of Oslo. And I do believe there was a third city, but I can't remember. And who was the jury or how it was decided, I don't know. And to be honest, this is the third time I am here with SMB Norge, or SME, what you call in English, SME, small, medium-sized enterprises. Yes. I feel it's getting more and more crowded, and the city is not built for it. It's just too small for it. So parking is a hell, hotel is a hell. So during this week, at least hundreds, maybe thousands of families in Arendal, they rent out their houses for huge sums of money. Yeah. And then they go on vacation, and the vacation ends up being paid because they make so much more money on renting out here. Yeah. So to be honest, it's a little bit too small, but it's a very beautiful city. So everybody needs to be here, and everybody is here. So if you are a local citizen here, you will recognize people everywhere. I mean celebrity, people from politics, from government, from sports, from entertainment, everything. You know, we had yesterday in our tent, we had a stand-up comedian, Norwegian famous stand-up comedian doing a stand-up for us. So it's like who is who in Norway meets here. So it's a very special week, of course. But you've traveled, I guess, on affairs before around the world. Is this kind of a unique, or do you see this type of thing anywhere else, or everything in a hall?
I think it's very unique. I never saw it something similar to that.
No.
So whenever I went to a fair, it was always like in a big buildings where you have all single booths for companies or whoever.
But it's more boring though, that way.
That way is much more boring. You know, like I like this experience more. I was a bit lost in the beginning, to be honest, because I couldn't understand what's going on with the ships and so on. But in the meantime, like after half a day, I really enjoy it.
So Wolfgang, you have arrest me if I'm wrong. It's running like on the clock here every time. So the debate you're going to have with us, it's actually tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Yeah. So
at 11.
Just to correct myself here. So, what about the Pulsora company, or what about Wolfgang Sölch? Tell me about your background and how you ended up in Pulsora.
Yeah, sure. You know, like I'm a long timer with selling software in the end.
Yeah.
I studied
IT guru.
I studied computer science, and more or less from the beginning, I worked for American software companies. Yeah. Across the globe, like TIBCO, Microsoft, SAP. And others. My last big engagement was Qualtrics, was an experience management solution for customer experience, employee experience, product experience, and was sold to SAP for 8 billion. And was a very good, very nice experience, and really enjoyed the 5 years with Qualtrics. And one of my former employer was TIBCO, was also a very well-known company in Silicon Valley and across the world. And my first European boss from an American software company was Murat Sönmez. So Murat founded Pulsora after he worked 7 years for the World Economic Forum.
Wow.
So he did this for 7 years, and he met like hundreds of CEOs, CFOs, auditors like KPMG, Deloitte, and others. And he found there's a need for a real on-purpose ESG solution to cover their needs. And then after ESG, so it's for environmental, social, and governance.
Yeah.
That's what all the European organizations have to run after. It's called CSRD. That's regulations they have to send over to the European Union, more or less from 2025 onwards, looking backward to 2024, starting with the big companies, and then it goes step by step to smaller and mid-sized companies over the next years. So it's a mandatory what they have to do. And he found a need for an ESG solution. So he did like 100 design workshops, and because he has this position to speak to all the CEOs, so he spoke with a lot of companies like Chevron, Saudi Aramco, Sompo is a big holding in Japan, and others. So he had like the best information you can get. And out of the 100 design workshops, he came up with a software solution, how it should look like. He discovered also a lot of like very important points, like on the one hand, we call it cascading data collection. So to help customers and companies to collect data across the whole supply chain. So if you think about like a big companies, they have different holding companies, and all the holding companies are in different regions and countries. And in the countries, they have fabrics, plants, and then they have suppliers and partners. And for example, to measure the carbon footprint, you have to, like collect the data more or less from the suppliers and partners up to the region, to the holding companies, and then finally to the holding itself.
Yeah, we'll get into that. And this is also the reason why the SME market needs to be involved, because the chain of demand will go on. So.
Right.
Yes.
So that's the reason why we built an on-purpose solution only for ESG. And that was one of the main outcomes, also that it's auditable, and a couple of other stuff. I think you will cover this later as well. But then we designed the solution, and we just open and go for trying to help all the companies across the world. It's made for like big companies, but it's also made for smaller companies.
But you have some really, really major accounts on the world stage, don't you?
Yes. And
is it allowed to tell or name or whatever? But it's huge, isn't it?
Yeah, we have like in all the verticals almost the biggest companies in place. So we started out with like private equity companies because there's a big need to measure their sustainability footprint. So one of our biggest vertical is private equity, and we just won one of the biggest one. So it's always tricky to name them because
I don't mind, but just for people to understand.
So we have so as I said, in all the verticals we have probably the biggest companies won already. Like also in the oil and gas industry, we won the biggest one globally available, and so I think we're on a good way, but we also want to help like small and business company. So we just recently closed a very small company doing just 20 million revenue, and they just start using our solution because they also want to show their sustainability footprint, even if they don't have it to do already, but they just offer it to their customers and shows that they do it on a sustainability way, how to produce their products.
Wolfgang, what is your feeling of the world, Europe? Germany is a huge industrial country. Are they ready for this? And you talk about the changes in 2025. Does people feel this enough on their pulse? Are they ready for it, the change? Are they ready for it?
I think you have to look at it on different aspects.
Yeah.
One, nobody really likes to do tax or finance reports.
No.
So it's just a given, and you have to do it. And it's just mandatory, it comes with the regulation. A lot of countries in the world have mandatory regulations in place. And even like if you look at MENA, like Saudi Arabia or Dubai, I have been told that in the next 1 to 2 years, all of them will have regulations in place. So on the one hand, you have to do it, right? Like a tax or a finance report, a company has to do it. So it's just a given and a mandatory. And if you don't, like act accordingly, so you can see already people or countries are start discussing penalties. Like in French, they discuss whether they also go to jail, like similar to what you do with the financial reporting. So that's the one aspect, like on the one hand, you have to do it as a tax or finance report.
So in France, you're saying you can end up being treated as a criminal if you don't do it. Wow.
Yes, and this is, so they're just debating it in the moment, but you will see there will be more, foresee it will be the same penalties coming up like with the financial reports. So if a big company, public traded company or any other company is not coming up with their financial reports or tax, like whatever is in place in this country, they will have to go to jail or have to pay like penalties or whatever. So I think that's the same for all of them. On the other hand, you have to think about like 3 other aspects. What I think it's very important. One is customers. So your customers are looking more and more whether you work accordingly to ESG rules, meaning like fair trade of share, diversity, how sustainability is your production and so on. And people are willing to pay more. So that's also like, I think that's what companies overlook. There's a chance to really get better products on the market, and in exchange, people are willing to pay more. So I had the same. I just put a solar photovoltaic on my roof, and I took more or less the most expensive one because it was the only one in Germany who is producing in Germany, beside all the Chinese production what's coming in the European market. Carbon footprint,
ship.
Right. So I bought it and it cost me 4,000 euros more. So I think people are willing to pay more if you can really prove that there is a sustainable production behind it. And it has to be auditable, like it's not like fake it. No. You have to really prove that it's you did it this way. That's the one point. The next one is employees. So if you want to win talents, and especially if you look at the younger generation, they are also looking more and more like what you do for diversity and for sustainability production and so on. So it will be harder and harder to find employees and good talents if you don't, let's say, act accordingly. And last but not least, and we saw it with these private equity companies, where we have a lot of them in our customer profiles. They measure the sustainability footprint of their investments. So, and this is also a big, like way what you have to think about it, because like if you don't act accordingly, you don't get any investments in the future. So beside all this regulation and the laws in place, there are good reasons to think about why you should do it on the customers, employees, and also getting money.
I'll jump into a question about that. The position you are, what is your role in Pulsora?
I am leading the EMEA organization for Pulsora, and hopefully the EMEA organization for Pulsora, and building up the whole organization in the European country. Okay. So this goes from South Africa to Nordic and
EMEA. Now I'm from EMEA. Yes. I worked for FedEx for 13 years, so EMEA. Right. Yes. I have to think back. And Pulsora as a company, when was it founded?
It's not a very. It's in case a very young company. So it was founded around 2020. Oh, okay. It's very young.
So you kicked off.
We really more or less kicked off globally. The reason why is, as I said, Murat worked for the World Economic Forum in the board. And he did like over 1.5 years nothing else than interviewing people, especially like top people in this area, like CEOs, CFOs, head of sustainability, because he had the chance to meet these guys on the World Economic Fair on a yearly basis. And the solution, then he lets the solution developed from 100 developers. And it's ready since beginning of 2023.
Yeah.
So it's a very young startup, if you want so.
What is the inspiration behind Pulsora? You said he came from the World Economic Forum. What inspired him to start in this kind of business?
Yeah, on the one hand, you know, like he was also the co-founder of TIBCO, as mentioned.
Yeah.
So TIBCO was called the information bus company. So during the 90s, we tried to make it easier for big companies to connect to backend systems like a master data management system in the beginning. It's now, you know, like to connect to all these big systems like SAP, Oracle, IBM hosts, and so on to make it easier. And it's a kind of a similar issue with ESG. Having this background, because one of the main topic is how to collect the data. So it could come like via manual entries that somebody's just putting something in. It could be like a file upload. So when we start with our customers, most of the times they do historical uploads via Excel out of what they did. So most of the customers have something in place. But if they are opening up, most of the time you can see they are working with Excel or email and consulting in the background.
Local software.
Not really a software. We call it Microsoft Sustainability Suite, just as a joke, right? So, but that's what they use to just use it, right? And so that's the reason why he saw a need from a software side and connected with the information he got from the board and from the people he met, you know, like with his experience from the past, he thought like an ESG solution, what is really built on purpose. And there are not so many companies built on purpose for this area on a global range.
Yeah. So he wanted to think big straight away.
He wanted to think big for the big companies starting, because once you can cover like the biggest companies, and it's also good for smaller companies. So it's just like a subset of what you do. And then we can make sure that we especially also help small and business companies.
And you originate from Germany, of course.
Yes.
Are you present as a company in other countries, or do you take everything from Germany out to the world?
Yeah, what we do in the moment is like we started in Germany, and next year is the plan that we go step by step in other countries. But on the other hand, you know, like we have almost in every country now partner and reseller already in place. So like, for example, and this leads us a little bit to EcoAdvis. EcoAdvis is our partner and reseller in the Norwegian area, especially for Norway. And we start working together, and I think that's a big benefit for all the companies who are looking also for carbon credits.
We'll get into that. I just have to ask you, Wolfgang, first, because I am a positively environmental guy. I'm not like one of those in the street throwing paint on painting, the blood on painting, stuff like that. I'm not like that, but I'm very concerned about the future for the planet. But at the same time, my biggest thought around it is I'm an innovational optimist. And you are on the, what shall we call it, the registry end of it. You have to do this and this. It's laws and regulations and everything. What do you think about, or are your perspective on this, on being optimistic about saving the world via technology, innovations, etc.? To me, I feel it's not enough focus on it. It's always a focus about what you need to do. This is a law. It tells you to do this. It tells you to do this. And while weeks, months, and years go by and the earth gets warmer and warmer, I don't feel the speed for innovation is there enough. Of course, there's a lot, especially for Germany with solar, etc. There's a lot, but we need more speed on it. What is are you concerned about the future as a whole? Not laws and regulations, but about making a change.
You know, like I'm a totally optimistic guy. So, and I really believe there will come up a lot of technologies in the future, what really helps us. You know, like I have an interesting speech what I heard from a futurist. And for me, it was like somehow eye-opening. He said, like in the end of the 19th century, there was a big discussion in New York because they had all these horses running to the city.
With the dirt.
With the dirt,
with
the shit, sorry.
Yes.
And they really discussed a lot around, like who is allowed to go in the city and who not. And, like they never could really solve it till to the moment a new technology appears. And in this case, the car came up. Henry Ford. So that was one of the drivers to really change it a lot. And I think always in this manner, like there will be for sure a lot of technologies coming up in the future, what really helps us to clean up the ocean again, to have like a good energy, and what everybody can use on an easy way. Like it's a lot of things what just be innovated in the moment. I'm with you. It would be great to have it like on a quicker run, but I think we really need technology to help us to solve all of these issues. That's my fundamental.
I agree. We are feeling. 2 of 1 agreeing there. Very good. So you had the debate here, or you will have tomorrow with the SMB Norge in Arendalsuka and with EcoAdvis. And what is EcoAdvis? You said it's a reseller, but what more can you say about EcoAdvis?
Yeah, like the reason why we work together. So EcoAdvis, like let's take a step back. Like you had probably the same issues in Norway like we had in Germany. There were a couple of companies who sold carbon credits. And they did it like in an illegal way of doing it, like selling forests more often and so on. So it was a big debate in Germany and probably across the world. And EcoAdvis really tries to do it in an audible, secure and honest way. So what they start doing is with the technology to have the solution running on with blockchain on the one hand. So this makes sure that nobody can sell it twice. On the other hand,
or greenwashing basically.
Correct. And then they added a lot of technologies like looking at via satellites or drones, so you can see your own space, what you bought, and you can see it growing and so on. So this secures that, like, if you buy carbon credits and you buy forests, for example, or parts of forests, or where you can plant all these trees, it makes sure that nobody else, you can just resell it again, right? And the combination with Pulsora helps. On the one hand, like with Pulsora, you can get your carbon footprint. And like for heavy industries or other industries, it's very unlikely that you can get really to net zero. So in order to get to net zero, you can then, because this will be connected directly, then you can really make sure that you more or less buy the carbon credits what you need in order to get to net zero. So that's the idea, on the one hand, to have a solution in place where you can measure your carbon footprint, and to have another solution in place where you can buy carbon credits. And then both working together, we hope to make it easy, and we can show that it's auditable, it's secure, it's 100% correct what we do together, to really make sure that what we do is like really helpful for the world.
And what is EcoAdvis' role? Of course, they are here in Norway, but what is it that they do for you here?
For us, it's just a partner. A partner where we work closely together and hope to win like the market.
And also maybe understand the market kind of.
Yes, absolutely.
So the debate will be called, is the SME sector ready to report on the new European sustainability demands? So concerning the debate here in Arendal, Wolfgang, there's many people within all sorts of industries knows that the European Union takes the climate, the environment and regulations very, very seriously. For the bigger companies, it's been like this, but change are coming. Now it's closing in on the smaller companies as well that would need to have their things in order, the books in order when it comes to carbon footprint, etc., etc. So how come the smaller businesses now needs to address this more than before? Is it time sensitivity? Is it for the better of the world? Or why do the small business owner need to react now?
Yeah, I think out of the same reasons. On the one hand, like the European Union will get step by step down to all sizes of companies. I personally expect that we, in the end, like individuals, also have to, in addition to a tax advisor, you finally have also to show your ESG footprint.
Yeah, as an individual.
As an individual, if you look at like 10, 20 years ahead.
Yeah.
So it goes down from like public traded company down to mid-sized company to smaller company. So on the one hand, it's to prepare and do something in advance, because the issue is once this regulation really get live, it will be very hard to find solutions or consultant or partners who have time to help you, because it's like, if you think about European Union, we have 50,000 companies who are looking now for a solution. So it means like everybody's more or less filled up with work in order to help these customers. If you go down to the smaller companies, it's even worse.
Yeah,
and so on the one hand, it's good to start somehow now and get the first like experience with it. But on the other hand, as mentioned before, you have your customers are looking at, you have employees looking at what you do, and you also have investors looking at you, and that's what they do now and not in 5 years.
Yes.
So I think all of these four, let's say, components should make you drive to show something in this direction.
And the thing is, for smaller companies, Wolfgang, is that if you're a supplier, you're going to be left out if you can't follow the demands. Because the bigger companies, they won't have time to deal with you.
Yeah.
Meaning you're excluded from the market in the end.
Yes. And, like that's what we see, like the big companies already including all their suppliers. So we have the biggest glass manufacturer as an example in Turkey, and they have 6,000 suppliers. And all of them had been asked, to deliver data. So, and it's a big issue to collect this data and get these people helping you. And out of this reason, we have different ways of doing it to make it as easy as possible to collect this data for the companies itself.
And I assume, Wolfgang, at some point, smaller businesses also needs to have control on their end as well, meaning like in demand-wise. And what I'm like a novice, so I know nothing, but I know or heard about Scope 3 emissions accounts. And Scope 3, talk to me about that. That is your personal or as a company carbon footprint, isn't it? That's about how you impact the world around you. Isn't that Scope 3?
Yeah, you have like for carbon footprint, you have Scope 1, 2, and 15 categories of Scope 3.
Oh. Okay.
And
tell me a little bit about it.
So the biggest part is, I would say, almost every time is Scope 3.
Yeah.
Like everything what has to do with suppliers, and it's not about what you use as resources, but what all suppliers and partners and fabrics and so on produce around you. In order to get your products going. So that's a huge issue to collect all this data, and you have to support all these 15 categories in order to make sure that you have it done right. And risking
fine or, like in France, you said they're going to arrest people. So it's just scary to hear about.
Yeah, like I foresee think about financial reporting or tax.
Yeah.
I think they will get more or less the same laws in place what you see with financial in these different countries. It's just a normal, I think if you look at bigger companies, public traded companies, what I think they will do is like they will accordingly report on a quarterly basis. They do the financial and the ESG reporting on the same day. And that's it. So it will be just a normal behavior of companies coming out. Smaller companies have to do it once a year, as an example, and they deliver the financial tax report plus the ESG report to the region or European Union, depending on the regulation, how it's looking like that.
I heard we had this environmental conference ourselves back in February or something, April maybe, and I heard some guy said it's now about counting, meaning a carbon footprint, about how do you affect the world, but also how does the world affect you? So it's like a dual thinking in the end, where we are always thinking more or less in one way before.
Yeah.
So it's a new world. It's what do you affect and how are you affected as well?
As Pulsora?
No, in general, the way of thinking in carbon footprints is...
for me, it's still, and that's what I'm trying to push a little bit.
Yeah.
For me, it's still that people just think about, they have to do it. But I think there's a big chance also for the companies, as mentioned, I think consumers and customers there's an extra, market. If you can really produce sustainability products and you can prove it's sustainable or fair trade or whatever, you have a diverse company and take care about all this stuff.
Yeah.
I think consumers are willing to pay more for you.
Yeah.
So that's one point. And, it's very little what I see in the market in the moment. It's the same. And I think that companies underestimate how important it for employees is to join and get good talents. So I look at my daughter, she just is also working in software industry, but she really looks after software companies who are looking at sustainability and diverse offerings and so on. So I think
it's an ethical mind.
It's an ethical mind, and you can see it much more on the younger generations than on the older generation. And we are not, in the end, I'm an old guy, we are not really, used to it, but that's what you can see in the market. And last but not least, again, we won the biggest private equity company in the company, and they are measuring, and a lot of other private equity are really looking at the sustainability footprint of their investments. So if you can't show it to the investors or even to the banks, it will be harder and harder to get money for your new fabric or whatever you want to invest in.
Yeah, it's going to be tougher and tougher. Just to ask you about Scope 3 once more, is this due to the change in 2025? Smaller companies, when will they have, as a demand, you need to have an account on Scope 3? Is it now? Is it 2025? Is it 2030?
For the smaller companies, it's not 100% fixed yet, I think. Because it's
but
always...
When do you see it coming?
In the moment, what I heard, it's starting in 2026 for 2025.
Okay.
But looking at...
Not so far away.
Not so far away,
No.
but and also goes step by step down, they will make it related either to the revenue, most likely, that you have to do it. But if I think it takes 1 year more at least, because it's a bit of a moving target with European Union. It's not 100% set in stone because you have a lot of lobbyists and so on. So I think it will take another year more. But for the bigger ones, it's starting 2025, looking at backwards to 2024. So and just my point as well. You should start now in order to get something in 2025.
Yes.
Because that's what we tell everybody. It takes you 3 months for a vendor selection at least.
Yeah.
And also get the contracts ready. Then you need 3 to 6 months to implement the whole solution. And then you also have to allow your colleagues and partners and providers and suppliers at least 3 months to add data to the system. And then it's 1 year over if you start already now. So thinking about you can start in 25 and get something, forget about it. Everybody, every solution or every software vendor and consultant are really filled up with work. So you have to find now your partner and try to get something going for 2025.
Yeah, maybe in the end you don't have anyone to help you because
that's
everybody's
the point.
busy. Yeah.
That's a really critical point.
Yeah. And in which way can Pulsora help your clients? What is your core business? In which way would you explain it for the listener? This is how we help you. Because it's a platform.
It's a platform.
Yeah.
So what we developed is a software solution to make it easier for companies to come up with ESG, and especially for the European region to deliver a CSRD report. That's how it's called. And it should be a machine readable, there's a standard called what they also use for financial. what is called XBRL, and there's a standard, what is a machine-readable version of the CSRD for the European Union. So in the end, every software solution provider should allow you to submit the same CSRD reports to the European Union. But the question is, how difficult is it to collect and get this data going for you?
That is very hard with Excel, at least.
Yeah, Excel will not work.
No.
Out of one big reason, it's not auditable.
Right.
So you need to have a solution in place, and we see this quite often for carbons as well. Carbons, they are not auditable, meaning like you have no audit trails, you have no evidence files, you can't see the calculation behind how you do it. And that's very important for the auditors like KPMG and others.
Yeah, you must be able to dig all the way in.
Yes. And also show how you did it and how you calculate it. And you have to be very transparent.
Of course, here is the issue with greenwashing.
Yeah. That's the point. So if you can show, then nobody will approve it. And that's not only related to the big ones, because SMB or SME most of the time have smaller tax advisors taking over now also the audit for ESG. They will not approve your ESG report finally if you're not like open and transparent. And we help with a lot of things what comes out of the design workshops. One is cascading data collection, what I explained before, like that you can make it easy for companies to collect all the data from the suppliers over the plants to the region to your employees and so on. So this is an important point, then that you're audit ready. So we really try to make sure that the data is current, complete and correct, we call it always. So data coming in has to be, we have different steps to make sure that the data is correct. One is data validation rules. So you can set your rules and help you to find the let's say, the peaks, what could be wrong, for example, right? Because like if you think about, you have to report around 200 to 1,300 metrics across the globe for your supply chain. Then you need a solution helping you to find these peaks in order to make sure that's the correct data. So that's one thing. Then you have the audit trails, who is doing what. And then you have, in addition, you have evidence files, what you have to attach, like electricity bill of a office in Singapore, just to mention an example. And finally, you have the approval workflow, where somebody from the company is finally looking at the data and say, okay, so it looks correct, or there's an evidence file missing, or this data is very much over the top. Can you make sure it's really correct? So you can then ask questions again and make sure that the data is correct. So we help all with all this behavior and make it easy to collect the data.
And also, I'm just guessing, I'm hoping I'm correct here, though, that this seems very complex and like a very time-consuming thing to do. But have you tweaked your system or your platform to be time-saving for this?
Yeah,
absolutely. For the business?
Yeah, absolutely. If we just an example, so the biggest PE company we just won, they told us they have 10 people for 3 months to send out the correct Excel sheets to the different investments they put in order to collect this data. So, and for us, it's just once the system is set up, you just click on one point and then you send out all the requests and that's done. Like everybody gets exactly the metrics who are from interest from them and also have to fill out. And in addition, then the controller, it's very hard to control what's coming in an Excel sheet. But you need a real solution. To help you there.
And I guess, Wolfgang, you have plenty of competition. Is there some way you would say you differentiate yourself from your competition?
Yeah, I would rank in different areas. One, we have like companies doing a lot of. Let's turn it around. Like most of the companies have already something in place.
Yes.
So they did already start with looking into it. And most of the times they used consultant with excellent email. Some of them added like carbon solutions on top of it, which they have now to look whether they are auditable or not. And then you have another pillar of competition, like all the big ones, like SAP, Microsoft, IBM, Oracle, and so on. They always do the same, like they combine out of their different solutions. They combine a new software category. And they gain quite a lot of market because they have this sales in place, they have all the contracts in place. So it's really relatively easy to position their solutions with customer. But what you can see is then and it's a typical behavior for all software categories, and I know it because I'm working like 25 years in the market. What you see over time is like if you take 100 companies as an example for the market, like I would suggest that at least 70% just will die over the next 5 years because they don't get any investment anymore. Then the market get more and more mature, and then the big companies tend to buy the best software solutions in the market, and that's what you see with all, like it's their play, right? So if you look at SAP, they bought SuccessFactors for HR, they bought Ariba for marketplace, they bought Qualtrics for experience management, they bought Concur for travel expense, and so on. Same do IBM and Microsoft and Oracle and so on. So they will just buy somebody. And then in the end, like a handful good solutions will stay in the market and drive this market in the software category. So that's the big ones. And then we have also as competition like
the local ones.
The local ones and smaller ones who just added a little bit on top of their solution where they're in, because almost everybody has something for ESG. And the difference to us, there are only very little companies in the market who just developed a solution only for the ESG needs. So we only have ESG and nothing else. We have no document management system, we have no EEP system, we have no sales system. It's just on the purpose for the customer. And that's also the vision from our CTO. So he wants to come up with he says always like an ERP system for ESG. So everything should be covered. What is the need for an ESG solution?
Yeah, so it's very specific against laws and regulations, basically.
Yeah, and everything what you need in this environment.
Yes.
So
it has not only have like 20 other things just to be fun for it. It's pinpointed. Yes.
To especially to the ESG needs for companies.
And this is, I guess, maybe the unique selling point for Pulsora then, because you don't have all the. Let's say if Microsoft would make something, they would have 10 other cool to have stuff, but it would only confuse you.
Yeah, and like what you can see is that most of the times the customer, like these big companies will for sure, most of them will buy a real good solution in the market. But this means for the companies in the end, they have to rework everything. So it's like a new project what you have to set up. So you do it now with Microsoft as an example, or any other bigger company, and I can bet for it, like in 3, 4, 5 years, you have to do it again with another solution.
So with the rules and regulations when it comes to climate accounts, it's probably not the right word, but you know what I mean with the ESG, etc. Does it change a lot? Is it a work in progress? Or is it like once you learn it, you'll learn it, or do you need to upgrade your competence on these issues all the time? Is it work in progress kind of all the time changing?
I think out of different reasons it's changing, because if you look at the big companies, they have to like the financial reporting is changing, the ESG reporting will change, because for example, you buy another company in another country. So you have to rethink about
different regulations, yes.
Or you sell parts of your company, right? Or products, for example, doesn't work anymore for the market and you come up with new products. So there's ongoing change in all these companies, where you have to always somehow adapt what you did over the last year in the financial reporting and the ESG reporting. So I think that's an ongoing stuff will just become like a normal behavior for all the companies to think about it.
Yes, and this is also why you really need to have a trustworthy partner on this issue, because if you're the local plumber and you think, oh no, I have the authorization on the wall now, so I'm all good. Yeah, but that was 5 years ago, and now there's 10,000 changes. This is why you need a trustworthy partner to stay in the game.
Yes, that's the point.
It's this is a tough world. Are there any major changes, if any, in the near future of laws and regulations? You said 2025. What is the warning signs right now for the small businesses?
Like for me, it's crazy if you look at all on the one hand, like there are a lot of regulations in place, not mandatory, but like say own the market in the last 5-10 years already, because they start coming up with different so-called regulations, like if you look at GRI, SASB and other providers, and they have just gained a lot of market. But on the other hand, now the country regulations coming in place. So you add a lot of more. And if you're like a global acting company, you know, like you have all the regulations in the different countries. So this makes it really hard for them to really fulfill all these regulations. So my personal view is they have to come somehow like a consolidation, because companies will not anymore can report to everything more or less. So on the one hand, they have to think about what they really need. And on the other hand, I think the parliaments and the European Union have to somehow, like make it easier for these guys. Because it's, if you think about what it means from money, what you put in order to get this data, it's absolutely insane.
And even if Norway is not in the European Union, we basically more or less follows what the union says or tells us to do. So we have this veto we can do in the agreement, EØS-avtale, what the heck it's called in English now, I don't know, but it's the agreement we have with the European Union with Iceland and Luxembourg. Don't arrest me. This was something I hadn't planned, but the thing is that we have a veto we can use, and since 1993 we have not used it a single time. So when EU decides for something, it's going to happen in Norway too. It's just the way we are acting right now.
Yeah, again, think about the other 3 pillars as well. On the one hand, yes, with the regulation, because you also have bigger companies who are working in the European Union. But also, like, if you have a big company and you're in California, as an example, you have to report against the Californian Climate Act. So it doesn't help you to have the headquarter in Norway. You still have to, like have regulations depending on the size of the business in the different countries, what you have to do. Right, that's one point. And then again, you have customers, employees and investors. And this has nothing to do with the regulations in place. You just have to take care about them now and not tomorrow.
And in our agreement, it's of course Switzerland, and I think it's Liechtenstein, and then it's Iceland and Norway. Yes, not Luxembourg. You have to have your facts straight. Then what about the ESG, the environmental, social, and governance? Of course, this is your main game. Are things changing there too, or is it static, or is it all the time changing? So you need Pulsora as a company to stay on top of the game.
Like what we do is like we have an own legal team looking at all the regulations in the world. And if there's a new regulation coming up, we try to get it in within 4 weeks. So that means you can see like all the regulations as a library. Like if you take CSRD is one library, GRI is one library, and so on, right? For example, now, because we are also very active in, for example, in the Turkish market, there's a new regulation coming up. It's called CSRS. TSRS, Turkish Sustainability Regulation. And so in order to help our customers there, we will also support this regulation. So and then you can just pick it from the library and then choose the topics and metrics you want to go for.
And which is completely updated.
It will be regularly updated without any cost for the customer.
What about the use of AI, Wolfgang? Do you use it in some way in your business or service? And what is your view of AI for the future? Can it change the climate business in a better way?
Like we start using AI in our solution as well. So we have integrated a AI bot However, to be honest, it's not too good in the moment, because AI is always good if you have like a big database or data available what you can use. And this is a big issue because we are not owning the data of our customers. What we're trying to do is to get allowance more and more for customer to anonymize the data so that we can use it for the benefits of all customers in the end. So I think will help to, on the one hand, hopefully find us new technical solutions and build up ideas, but also will help us to get it easier done. But you need a lot of data, so that's the main point here.
Yes, but AI in general, it will probably boost and energize and change the industry for this kind of...
that's what I say. For technology, like finding new technology and helping building up whatever, like to help make our world cleaner, better, whatever. I think AI will help for sure.
And with carbon footprint, we're soon about to end there, Wolfgang. This is an old buzzword of climate politics and business, but it's still very important. Will AI, either in your platform or in general, make it easier to trace carbon footprint? Will there be a kind of smartness in this, time consuming or saving time, of course, again?
Yeah, I think especially to time consuming and stuff like that, it will for sure help. But again, like you need a lot of data. What you can access and use.
And AI can't collect the data. You must have someone to put it in. Then is that what you're saying?
Yeah, because the data what we probably need is the data what the customer enter in our solution.
Yes, of course.
And we are not the owner of the data, so we make really secure that the data is only owned by the customer in the moment.
Yeah.
But we try to get allowance to use it on an anonymous way in order for the benefit of everybody using our solution. And out of this reason, I think it takes a while to get the allowance, and also because like if you look at China as an example. China, they have special rules in place that it's really hard to, on the one hand, like if you're Volkswagen, for example, you have to report against the CSRD in Europe. But on the other hand, you need the data coming from China as an example. And China, it's hard to get the data out to the European Union as an example, right? So it's like everything is like in motion and very tricky. So it takes just a while to get it right across the globe.
So in the end now, Wolfgang, in a general way, kind of most important advice to concerned listener now, other than contacting Pulsora to buy your platform, what would you say to either calm down or make as a tip of priority for listeners on the future now and yes, your industry?
I think it has nothing to do with Pulsora, but looking at the market, like 50,000 companies have to come up in the next 1-2 years with a report. So better to start now with whatever solution partner you will find. Otherwise, if you would start 2025, you probably don't get somebody. So my advice really, and also thinking about not only regulation, customer, employees, and investors, start doing something now, even if you're a small and medium business. Understand the market a little bit, get a feeling for it, what is good, what is bad. Takes a while to find the right vendor in your region, depending on your business, probably your special needs. And this all takes a while, and then hopefully you can find the right vendor and consultant company helping you to finally report against the European Union or for your customers or employees and so on.
As a more general point of direction, that would, if there is an international listener, of course we're not international podcast, but since we're doing it in English, you never know, would you point them to pulsora.com? A Norwegian listener, would you point them to EcoAdvis? Is it .no? Which way would you point people to get in touch with you?
Both is good thing. As I said, we are partnering and working close together. It will be a solution. On the one hand, with Pulsora helps you to find out what is your carbon footprint, and EcoAdvis will help you to get your carbon credits on a very secure and honest way. So I think the combination, it's good, and you can either reach out to EcoAdvis or to Pulsora. Up to you where you want to start. Like from the process, I would say, pure process, I would say, if you have something in place, you can probably reach out to EcoAdvis and say, I need already this carbon credit. But if you have nothing in place, probably it's better to start collecting and getting the real data where you are on your ESG journey, and then make a decision how much carbon credit you need. So both are valid, good starting points.
Have we covered what we should cover? Do you have anything else to add, or are we good?
No, I think good. And thank you for inviting.
Yes.
It was a pleasure meeting you and talking about ESG.
Danke schön, Wolfgang Sölch. Vielen Glück in Pulsora und auf Wiedersehen.
Ja, danke schön. Thank you.